Hello and welcome to Technically Baltimore's The Look Ahead. I'm Donte Kirby, reporter with Technically, and in this series, we're exploring the theme of the new normal and discussing lessons we've learned from 2020. And today, my guest is Meghan McCorkell, Director of Marketing Communications for the Enoch Pratt Free Library. And for those and for those who don't know exactly what that is like all of Baltimore's public library system.
Mhm.
And just to get us started, Meghan, could you tell us a bit about yourself and the work you do?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm the director of marketing and communications with the Pratt Library. We have 22 locations across the city, including three mobile units. I've worked at the Pratt for just under 5 years. It is really a community anchor organization across the city. And I always laugh because they say if you've been there 5 years, they still consider you a new staff member because we still have people that have been at the library for 50 years, 55 years. So I think in 6 months, I finally age out of the new staff roundtable. So I'm still considered new at the Pratt.
And I guess can we talk a bit about what the Enoch Pratt libraries have been up to since I last spoke, which was like a year ago around the time where like the idea was burgeoning as like why libraries being Wi-Fi hotspots and like people coming to the parking lot and sort of using it for like community internet. So I guess could we talk a bit how has the Enoch Pratt library system been adjusted as a community resource in this way?
Sure. Well, I think adjusting has sort of been the name of the game for the whole year. You had said to me since we last spoke, I feel like everything has sort of merged together in the past couple of years. It's like a never-ending month or something. But right now, all 22 Pratt Library locations are open to the public at 50% capacity. So people can still come in. You can check out books, you can browse, you can use our computers. But we also understand that some people may still not be comfortable coming in. So we have set up resources like you mentioned. 8 of our locations are now drive-in Wi-Fi hotspots. So you can park in the parking lot or sit outside the building and use your personal device and get free Wi-Fi from us. If you're coming in, I mean, one of the big things people do is use our computers. So those are available to you. And we're excited on August 16th, we're actually going to be expanding our hours. We've had some limited hours since we opened our locations back in March, but we're going to go back to a more normal hours, longer hours for our customers starting on August 16th. Some of the other things that we've done is we've bought a bunch of Wi-Fi hotspots, and you can actually check those out like a book so that you can get free Wi-Fi inside your home. We also have tablets you can check out. If you have a student that needs a tablet for school, you can also check that out just like a book. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of new and exciting things. And honestly, they're new things that we had been talking about pre-pandemic, like, wouldn't it be cool to do this? And now we've just kind of sped up that process. And so we have a lot more resources for people now.
I guess could you elaborate more on like how you've been speeding up that process and how like as 2020 is going on and we're into 2021, the function of the library has changed. And like, do you see the library as like a digital access point and programs like that sort of continuing in the future past, like say when we get to 2025 and, knock on wood, fingers crossed, we get the pandemic and like the coronavirus under control, do you see the library still like acting as that hub for the community?
Well, what I would say is I kind of feel like the mission of the library has never changed. The mission is always access. We provide access, and that access comes in a lot of different forms. So maybe back in the day, that access to information was primarily with books. But when computers came online, we immediately put computers in our branches to get people connected. So now we're just really following the wave of what people need in their lives. I think the Pratt Library, more so than almost any organization, is great at looking at what does our community need and how can we be that conduit to get them what they need so that they can get the opportunities, the information, the access that they need. And so this year, when we talk about speeding things up, pre-pandemic, we had already hired a digital equity coordinator because we knew in Baltimore City, 40% of households don't have reliable access to internet inside their homes. We knew that because we saw those people coming in and using our internet, using our computers. We could see those statistics. Now, it became sort of a crisis for us when we knew that we had to close our doors to keep people safe from the pandemic. So immediately, the first thing we were thinking about is how do we get people access to something like the internet, which is critical. It's critical in finding a job. It's critical in getting social services. So it was sort of that outside the box thinking that we were able to put in these drive-in Wi-Fi locations. But it's also something that we were talking about as like our big dreams when we hired that digital equity coordinator. What are those big dreams? What are the ways that we can provide this access to a critical service like the internet that the city of Baltimore needs so badly? So they were already sort of in the infancy, and we just sped that process up. I mean, a lot of what we do is dependent on donor funding and grant funding. And when the pandemic hit, a lot of our donors and a lot of grants sort of shifted in the same way towards digital equity. So we were able to get those grants, get that private funding so that we could buy the hotspots, so that we could make 8 of our libraries digital access points outside. So I think as we push into the future, we're looking at those services and continuously looking at like, how do we expand upon them to continue to provide access? And, continuing to think outside the box of how to do that in a really creative way that gives people what they need. And we're continuously like listening to our customers and trying to find the best and easiest way to get them that.
And that's over the course of 2020 and this beginning half of 2021. What has the year taught you?
I think the year has taught me how to be really adaptable. I mean, prior to 2020, we'd be sitting in a room together with a video camera doing this interview, but now, we're on a Zoom platform, which maybe we didn't even hear about pre-pandemic, and we're able to do things like this and communicate and talk. The other thing, and I don't know that it taught me this, but it reinforced this for me, is I've always been in awe of our Pratt staff and how dedicated they are to this community, how creative they are in their programming. I mean, within weeks of the pandemic hitting, we had taken programs and started doing them virtually on our Facebook page. Today, we've actually hired someone who now streams our programs live on multiple platforms all at the same time on YouTube. We get people who say, hey, I'm watching from Australia. Hey, I'm watching from Indiana. So the reach of what we're doing has actually really expanded during the pandemic. So I think there are lessons that we've learned that we're going to take into the future. We're really looking at a hybrid programming model now because we know that for a little while, at least, people are not going to want to sit 1,000 people in a room, right? So how do we take these big name speakers that we've always had, have a limited amount of people in the room, but maybe stream that program to every single library and let people participate in smaller groups in different libraries? How do we continue to stream story times on our Facebook page and our virtual platforms? Because people have now come to rely on that. Kids have like sort of appointment viewing for that, and they're used to the librarians they've been seeing on our Facebook page. So there are a lot of things we've learned and a lot of positives that have come out of this. And we're just finding different ways to serve the community.
And you talked a bit before about like library. Most people in the library have been there for 50, 20 years. Like how have they been adjusting to like this whole more tech-oriented, more, digital space of having to like work with their constituents?
I think it's so interesting. I would say all of our staff members have really adopted this technology. They're embracing it, and they're seeing ways that they can really get that one-on-one touch with customers that they haven't maybe gotten for this year. We just started a new service. people used to come to the library and they would want to sit down and do intense research with the librarian for an hour who would help them look up something for a research paper. Well, we have now taken that service and put it completely online. So you can actually go on prattlibrary.org right now, and we call it Book a Librarian. And you can book a time slot with a librarian to do exactly that in a virtual setting. So they will help you with your research, whether that be a genealogy, whether it's a high school student trying to do a research paper. So I think we've really embraced technology as still finding that one-on-one touch with our customers in a really safe way, especially for people who are maybe not that comfortable coming into our buildings. We do still have health restrictions within our buildings. We're at 50% capacity. We have never waived the mask mandate. So people have been wearing masks in our buildings this entire time. You go through a health screening. Now, for some people, that's, makes them too anxious. So we're looking at how do we recreate these services that we did in person in a virtual way that are still really meaningful and help to foster those relationships. And I would say our staff of all ages have really embraced that, because that's usually why they went into the library profession to begin with.
And I guess with all this experience and like seeing how fast everything's changed and being like, at least out of the beginning stages of being like stunned with what's going on and like having a little bit more perspective, being in 2021 versus 2020, I guess what steps do you see the city, like, what steps should the city make to be prepared for like this new normal of hybrid learning and like internet access being essential at this point, and sort of even a heightened level of public health consciousness?
Sure. I mean, I think when we talk about the city overall, we've taken a look, and nothing has really emphasized this more than the pandemic, is that internet is so essential. Digital access is so essential. And the library really does play a big part in that, because we do see all of the people flood in to use our computers in the morning. But the library can't be the only place that's working on this. And of course it's not. So the mayor has actually hired a digital equity chair who sits right under him in a really high level position. I think that is a great start, because if we're going to look at internet as essential as we look at electricity, it has to involve more people than just one entity, one organization. So the Pratt Library, I think, is doing what we can. We're, looking at federal grants so we can put in more drive-in Wi-Fi locations. We are looking at the hotspots that we did buy, and whether we need to buy an upgraded hotspot so people can do more with those. I mean, we're looking at how we can do our part. We have fiber lines across the city. So how can we leverage the infrastructure we already have with other city partners to find a way to give people internet in their homes, just like they have electricity in their homes? And that's a conversation that's going on, I think, citywide between a lot of different organizations now. It's really inspiring. It's really inspiring to see how many people can come together, but it does take everybody so that we can make sure that across the city, that the people in Roland Park have the same opportunities as the people in Sandtown, Winchester. We see with internet, you can't apply for a job without the internet these days. You can't apply for social services without the internet. Internet is essential for entertainment, especially if you're stuck in your house for long periods of time. I mean, there are things that you need it just for your day to day. And if you can't get it from a place like the library, how can the library go beyond its walls and provide it inside homes? And that is a bigger conversation happening in the city. And I think it's happening at a more rapid pace now that the spotlight has been shined so harshly on the disparities in our city when it comes to digital equity.
Thank you. And I guess on that note, do you feel there's anything we haven't talked about? Anything you feel people should know about the Pratt Library system, about just the work that the libraries are doing and the resources they have available to them?
Sure. I mean, I always challenge people to stop by a library and see what we have. I really truly believe that there is something for everyone at our Pratt locations, whether that is, people are always surprised to find out they can download ebooks, like they don't have to download from Amazon. You can get free ebooks from the library. We have an
Use
e-card.
Hoopla or what? I use
Yeah.
Libby.
Yep, Libby. Libby's a great one. Libby Overdrive, they're sort of the same company. But yes, I have a giant like holds list in Overdrive, and I love it because I tend to finish a book at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I want a new book right away, and you can download it and it goes right to your device. The amount of digital customers we've had that started using ebooks has like tripled. So we're also looking at how do we keep up with the demand to make sure we're getting enough ebooks, because we know so many people have discovered that resource. But there's really something for everyone. If you're a parent, we've got great resources for back to school. We have live online tutors. So like maybe your algebra 2 skills as a parent aren't exactly as honed as as the teachers. So you could go and have your child use their e-card and log on to our live online tutor, and the tutor will actually teach them how to do the problem. They won't solve it for them, but they'll go through it with them. If you just need entertainment, we're still having blockbuster authors. Padma Lakshmi is helping launch our brand new Pratt Test Kitchen at the end of this month. That's going to be a series of programs, culinary programs that we'll be doing. We still have our story times for kids. We have stuff for teenagers. I mean, we really have things for all age groups. So I urge everyone, if you don't have a library card, pop into one of the libraries, see what there is for you. If you're hesitant to go in, we have an e-card that you can sign up for in about 3 minutes online, and you can access all of our digital resources. Everything's available at prattlibrary.org.
Thank you again, Megan, for taking the time to talk with me. And that's been technically Baltimore's Look Ahead. And until next time, stay connected.